So this is the Qoocam 3. It's a 360-degree action camera that can shoot up to 5.7K resolution. And if you think this camera looks kind of funky, you should see the footage. Let's ramble.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants some.
Hey, what is up guys? It's great to see you all again. And if you're new here, I'm Patrick and this is where I ramble about tech and other stuff. Apologies, my voice isn't completely back yet, but it'll do. So this camera was sent to me for review quite a while ago actually by a company called Kandao. And if you're an OG to the channel, that name might ring a bell because last year I reviewed what I consider the most interesting all-in-one video conferencing solution. So when they offered for me to review their 360 camera, I was of course interested, and I'm glad I did because this camera has a lot to offer, but at a price that's quite a bit more affordable than the competition. So let's have a quick look at the hardware, go over some of the key specs, and then we'll have some fun with it and I'll show you some of the cool shots you can get with a camera like this. So looking at the unit itself, you'll see that it has not one, but two fisheye lenses on each side. Both capture just a little bit over 180 degrees so that the two images can be stitched together in post-processing to essentially produce a full sphere, or in other words, a full 360-degree field of view. And I'll show you exactly how that works a little bit later in the video. The camera has one loudspeaker and 4 microphones positioned around the camera, which makes it possible to record in spatial audio, or as Kandao describes it, true ambisonic audio. And that's really cool because when you're watching a 360 video, you'll actually be able to hear exactly where the audio is coming from. The camera has a dual 1/1.55-inch sensor and a very fast 1.6 aperture, which means it does a pretty good job in low light conditions as well, and that's something most action cameras struggle with. The 1.9-inch touchscreen is nice and big, which not only makes it easy to quickly view your recordings, it's also much easier to operate the touch menu like that. I don't know if you've ever tried to operate a little action camera's touchscreen, but depending on how big your fingers are, sausage fingers, that can be a challenge. So a bit of extra screen real estate really does make a difference in that regard. Everything is recorded directly to a micro SD card that sits behind the battery door and that you can swap out easily and use it to transfer footage directly to your computer. Now, you're obviously not going to hold this camera like this when you're out there filming yourself. So to get those really interesting shots, a nice and long selfie stick is necessary. It's called an invisible selfie stick, and the reason for that is that it's positioned right between the two lenses, basically where the field of view of both lenses ends. That is called the stitch line because that's the point where the software takes over and stitches together the images of both lenses to create that 360-degree sphere. And by doing so, because the selfie stick is positioned right on that stitch line, it is essentially erased in the stitching process, which gives that spooky looking result, like the camera is just hovering above you with nobody holding it. Now, of course, if you look closely, you will see my hand holding something, but you really have to look very carefully. Now, when that selfie stick is on the camera, you can go out and get those crazy shots, and the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do or film. Or maybe the bottom is the limit, because the Qoocam 3 also has an IP68 rating, meaning it is waterproof up to 33 feet, making this an excellent underwater camera as well, to take it with you on your dives or just to have some fun at the water park with your kids. But it's also great for things like scooter rides because of the built-in super steady stabilization. The menu on this camera is super straightforward, especially if you've used an action camera before. Swipe right to see the gallery of what you've shot so far. Swipe left to switch between auto and manual if you like to tinker with the settings yourself. I usually just leave it on auto, nice and easy, and the camera does a pretty good job of correcting itself. Swipe up to set a timer, and down to get into the main menu where you can set things like brightness, set an orientation lock, a screen lock, which is very useful for those activities where you might accidentally touch your screen. You can set the audio levels and turn the indicator light on or off. And lastly, in the settings tab, you'll find all the usual suspects like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc., etc. The one setting I do want to highlight is the auto stop recording temperature setting. A lot of cameras these days tend to overheat when recording in hot settings for extended periods of time, and that includes this camera. But by changing the setting from standard to high, it will take a lot longer for the camera to switch off in those circumstances. I'm based in Belgium, so there's a a 0 to no chance of any overheating happening in this climate, but it's a nice feature to have. The little camera icon that sits at the bottom left of the screen will give you the recording options like photo, video, time-lapse, and so on. Now, one of the big advantages of a 360 camera is that you don't have to worry about framing. You can basically just point the camera in the general direction of what you want to film and worry about the framing later. The camera will literally shoot everything it sees around it, and when you're done filming, there are basically two ways to choose your framing and to edit your footage in general. One is the Qoocam 3 app for your phone, and the other is the Qoocam Studio, which is the full-blown desktop editing suite. I prefer to edit my videos in there, but that's probably because that's how I'm used to editing my videos. I would strongly encourage you to download the phone app in any case, because that will be your hub. It's how you connect to the camera, it's where you find the firmware updates, very important. It has tutorials that are especially useful if you're new to this type of camera, and it's also the place to be if you plan to upload your shots to social media. All the cool little party tricks are in there, like super strength, which is the one I really like, and lots of other ones. But yeah, personally, I prefer to edit the footage at my desk in Qoocam Studio and then import that studio into Final Cut so I can use the final footage in my projects there. Obviously, no camera is perfect, and that includes this one. The 1600 mAh battery is kind of small, and it provides a maximum of 1 hour of continuous filming. Thankfully, the battery is swappable, so you can of course bring spare ones for those longer shooting days. The other thing I think could be a little bit better is the auto settings outside. They can be a bit on the bright side at times, but that seems like something that can be fixed in a future firmware upgrade. All in all, I've been pretty impressed by this camera, especially at this price point. Also, Kandao informed me that there are some interesting discounts right now on the camera, as well as the travel kit and the motorcycle kit. So if you're interested in checking those out, there's going to be links in the description below. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give one of these. It really does help the channel. Subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for some links to videos you might also want to watch.